Today, we're diving into a story that presents this just incredible paradox. A soldier who became a hero, not for the lives he took, but for the ones he flat out refused to take. This is the amazing ethical puzzle of Hacksaw Ridge. So, let's just start with a huge question, one that really sits at the very core of this whole thing. When you're in the middle of a battle, what's the bravest thing you can do? Is it taking a life to protect your friends? Or is it refusing to kill at all and only trying to save lives?
And that brings us to this guy, Desmond Doss. He was a combat medic in World War II. He willingly signed up to go into one of the most brutal wars in history, but he had one unshakable condition. He would not carry a weapon, and he would not kill a single person.
So how does somebody even get to that point, especially in a time of global war? Let's take a look at where this ironclad principle actually came from.
You see, for Doss, this wasn't some sudden decision. It was forged way back in his childhood. There was this traumatic event where he almost killed his own brother. And you combine that with his really devout Seventh-day Adventist faith, well, the commandment, thou shalt not kill, became an absolute non-negotiable rule for him.
So Doss is caught in this impossible bind, right? He felt this patriotic duty to serve his country, but he also had this deep moral duty to never, ever kill. His solution? He'd become a combat medic. That way, he could be on the front lines serving, but dedicate himself completely to saving lives, not taking them.
Okay, to really get the huge conflict his decision created, we need to pull out a couple of classic ethical lenses. This is where you can see the deep philosophical clash that was going on. So the first lens is something called deontology, and you can just think of this as rules-based ethics. From this point of view, some actions, like killing, are just plain wrong, no matter what happens as a result. For a deontologist, you follow your moral duty, you stick to the rules, period. This was 100% Doss's worldview.
And then, on the complete other side of the spectrum, you've got utilitarianism. This is a results-based ethic. Here, no action is automatically right or wrong. The morality of what you do is judged by the outcome. The best choice is whatever creates the greatest good for the most people. This is pretty much the framework the military operates on.
And this is the big showdown, right? Deontology. Doss's view is all about your intention and sticking to absolute rules. Killing is always wrong. Utilitarianism, the military's view, is all about the results. Hey, if breaking a rule saves more lives in the long run, it's the right call. It's a fundamental clash of rules versus results.
Yeah, as you can probably guess, Doss's personal deontological rulebook didn't exactly fly with a very utilitarian U.S. Army. His principles were about to come under some serious fire, and I mean that literally and figuratively.
Look, the military saw an unarmed soldier as a huge liability. From their utilitarian perspective, an armed soldier helps end the war faster and ultimately reduces the total number of casualties. Uniformity, obedience, that's what creates efficiency. But for Doss, from his deontological view, his duty was to his conscience first, and human life could never be used as a means to an end, even a good one.
And this really pushes us to ask a super tough question. When does the good of the group, that efficiency, get to override the moral convictions of one person? The Army actually tried to kick Doss out because they believed his principles were putting everyone else in danger.
But Doss, he just wouldn't budge. He held firm and eventually was sent to the Pacific. And it was there, on this terrifying cliff face they called Hacksaw Ridge, that his unwavering principle was about to be tested in the most extreme way you can possibly imagine.
So during the Battle of Okinawa, one of the bloodiest battles of the entire war, Doss's battalion attacked Hacksaw Ridge and just got devastated. The survivors were ordered to retreat, but dozens of wounded men were left stranded up on top of the ridge, facing certain death.
But one man stayed. Just one, Desmond Doss. Unarmed, with bullets and explosions going off all around him, he refused to leave. As he dragged wounded soldiers, one by one, to the edge of the cliff and lowered them down to safety, he just kept praying the same thing, over and over. Please, Lord, help me get one more.
One more, and then one more. For over 12 hours, he did this again and again and again. In the end, military estimates say that Desmond Doss, the guy who refused to even touch a rifle, single-handedly saved the lives of 75 of his fellow soldiers. 75!
And this is the incredible, almost unbelievable paradox of his story. His stubborn, uncompromising deontological rule, thou shalt not kill, led to a massive utilitarian good. By sticking to his rule, he ended up creating the greatest good for the greatest number of people, saving 75 lives. It's amazing. You know, philosophers actually have a term for this kind of action. It's called supererogatory. It's a mouthful, I know. But it basically just means an act that's morally good but goes way, way beyond what your duty requires. No ethical theory in the world would say Doss had to risk his life like that. His actions were, quite literally, beyond the call of duty.
So this all brings us to the legacy of what he did. Doss was awarded the Medal of Honor, and his story really forces us to take a hard look at how we even define what a hero is.
So if you're looking at this through that deontology lens, Doss is a hero because of his absolute commitment to his principles. His intention was pure. He never broke his moral code, no matter what it cost him.
And if you're a utilitarian, well, the guy's a hero, because the results are just staggering. It's simple math, right? His actions produced an unbelievable amount of good. He saved 75 lives that would have been lost otherwise.
But here's the thing. You really can't tell the whole story with just one of these ideas. Deontology is perfect for explaining his motivation, the why behind what he did, but you absolutely need utilitarianism to understand his impact, the incredible results. He became a hero, recognized for his results, but those results were only possible because of his principle.
At the end of the day, the story of Desmond Doss is this beautiful paradox. A man who refused to fight and became one of America's greatest war heroes. And it leaves us with this question. What's the ultimate measure of a hero? Is it the purity of their principles, or is it the scale of their impact?